Well, let's stay with the story and take you this morning to the Gupta's Saxonwold property. That's where we find our reporter, Ziyanda and Ngcobo. Ziyanda, there's no other place to be this morning, is there? The site for many, many cabinet meetings, or rather, that's a really bad mistake to make, many meetings with cabinet ministers.
It is not quite the mistake to be making, but, you know, if the Gupta leaks and the Zondo Commission reports are anything to go by, you could very well get away with saying that this is the site of many cabinet meetings because of the allegations, Michelle, that the Gupta brothers are facing, that, you know, they really took around 250 billion rands from the state coffers through their siphoning of funds through state contracts and various government departments. The Free State Department, the Agriculture Department, you'll recall the Freda Dairy Farm project, which is one of the cases that the Gupta brothers already last year, there were questions around why they haven't been brought back to South Africa. It's been about a year since that red notice was issued by Interpol for the Gupta brothers, and this is around the same time, you'll recall Iqbal Sharma, Edwin Sodi, and other officials from the Free State Agriculture Department, including as well former Free State Premier Esma Khashule, were arrested. They're also implicated then in around siphoning 24.9 million rands from that department for a feasibility study when it came to the asbestos project. But that's not the only thing they've been implicated in. I mean, I think the latest indication of just how far the investigations from the NPA's investigating directorate are in relation to those arrests of those 5 Transnet executives, including former CE Siyabonga Gama. That was the greatest indication, because it is there, Transnet, where a lot of contracts are said to have been issued to the Gupta family, including for that failed locomotive project, those 1,064 trains which were just simply not fit for purpose. So this Saxonwold compound is also one of the properties, we understand, that is going to be auctioned off. And it's been a long journey, Michelle, since the Gupta family landed at the Waterkloof Air Force Base in 2013. An arrest is a significant development, but it must also be noted that it's going to be a long process, likely to be a long process if they contest their arrest before they become extradited to the country. In fact, the Justice Department's Crispin Perry even reflected then on the Shreen Devani case, Michelle, which took about 4 years until he was extradited to the country. Let's listen into what he had to say.
If you recall, the extradition matter in Shreen Devani, I think, took close to 3 years. So on average, extradition matters, even in our own country, when we have other parties, other countries extraditing various nationals for various reasons, it, for instance, can go right up to the Constitutional Court, which is not a process that happens overnight. So we would expect the same in other countries where fugitives of justice won't give up their freedom that easily, and so they would want to challenge every step of the process. So that's something that we should anticipate, but it's not something that should put us in despair. We should understand that these are rights that are afforded to individuals, and they have the right to exercise them. And we also have the right to ensure that we have crossed our I's, or rather crossed our T's and dotted our I's, to ensure that whatever challenge is put up against what we would require and what we present to the court, we have a valid explanation for it, and justice prevails. Yeah.
So obviously, Ziyanda, there are mountains of legal challenges ahead insofar as the Guptas are concerned. But the big question this morning, you know, South Africans who are waking up to the news, who are heartened by the news of the Guptas' arrest, the next question for our country becomes, does the NPA have the capacity then to successfully, one, extradite the Gupta brothers, but then perhaps more importantly, to successfully prosecute them?
So this is the big question and the so-called elephant in the room. Will they have the capacity? How strong is this case? I think, Michelle, if you look then at what has been happening in other cases, in particular when you look at the case involving a former Free State Premier and suspended Secretary General Ace Magashule, Iqbal Sharma and Edwin Sodi, there's a lot of groundwork that has been done by authorities, which will now also be bolstered by that Zondo Commission report, which is detailing, the various ways in which then the Gupta family infiltrated various state departments. In fact, the Chief Justice Raymond Zondo has described, what the Guptas were doing as a racketeering enterprise, outlining the various state-owned enterprises, SAA, Denal, ESCOM, and Transnet, and just exactly how they used specific lieutenants within these organizations, to actually effect their siphoning of funds. I think what's critical and heartening, I think, for South Africans at this moment is that finally the so-called big fish have now been captured. For the longest time, we've been seeing, departmental officials, whether you're seeing a CE or CFO or so-called runners. But at this stage, this is probably after, the arrest of the likes of Siyabonga Gama, one of the other big fish that have now been arrested and will have to account for exactly what they were doing and perhaps then recovering the monies that were taken. It's been a slow process, but I think when it comes to the capacity of the National Prosecuting Authority and them actually establishing the investigating directorate to specifically deal with these state capture cases and the pace at which they've moved, I think it's only been about a year, that since that red notice by Interpol, but already we've seen several arrests, and we can expect, I think, an upping of the pace then, now that the various parts of the commission reports have been released, but also, as you know, once you arrest some people, some turn and become state witnesses, and that also assists then with tightening up loose ends.
Yeah, absolutely. Ziyanda, thanks very much for that. You're absolutely right. The big question on South Africans' minds this morning, can we recover those hundreds of billions of rand lost to our economy during the state capture years? Ziyanda is live to us there outside the Gupta compound in Saxonwold.